Hello everybody, my name is Kyle. Welcome to another mock draft. I believe this is either the 6th or 7th mock draft. This week I struggled a little bit. Normally I do my mock draft in about 1 or 2 tries, and it's usually pretty much, to my liking. I'm happy with it. It took me like 7 or 8 tries this week to get the mock draft the way I wanted. I'm incorporating trades because I want mine to be unique, and without the trades, it's just another mock draft. So, quick thing before I start. I promise to be quick. I've noticed a little bit of a weird trend here. So, one of my videos, my mock draft, the first time I ever used GIFs in my videos, is absolutely blowing up lately. It's over 2,000 views, and I appreciate all the support on those videos. But the recent ones haven't been getting as many views. I'm kind of seeing the same people over and over again, which is good. I'm really happy that people are watching my videos, but I'm confused as why this one video is getting 2,000 views and the other one's getting like 100 a week or 200 a week. So I'm a little bit confused here. Doesn't matter. Without further ado, let me get this mock draft started. Alright, with the number 1 overall pick, I have the Houston Texans selecting Blake Bortles, quarterback, UCF. Bortles is the best fit for the Texans, and you know what? I've decided Bortles is the best quarterback in this draft. And I know I love Manziel, and I think he's going to be the best quarterback. The most exciting quarterback in this draft is Johnny Manziel. But the best quarterback, throwing the ball down the field, making good decisions, is Blake Bortles. While he isn't as polished as Teddy Bridgewater is, his upside is way more than Bridgewater's ever will be, in my opinion. Also, he fits this scheme. Bill O'Brien, coming from Penn State, did play against Bortles in college, so he has that kind of a relationship with him. But Bortles just fits. He's a tough guy. He's a big guy. I know the Vikings would love to have Blake Bortles, but I just don't see them being able to get the picks to move up to number 1. I think the Texans will fall in love with a quarterback at 1, and that quarterback will be Blake Bortles out of UCF. Moving on now, with number 2 pick in the draft, I have the St. Louis Rams selecting Sammy Watkins, wide receiver, out of Clemson. This pick, I know, is going to make a lot of people happy in the comments section. I was getting destroyed for not having the Rams take Sammy Watkins, and I just want you to know, that's not the reason why I have him going here. I have him going here because I looked at Sammy Watkins' tape and I realized, look, I know he's such a talented guy, and I'm overthinking the fact that there's the wide receiver depth in this draft. I said it numerous times in my videos before. If you see the player you want on the board available and you have the pick, take him. Don't worry about value. Don't worry about this and that. If he's your guy, pick him. The Rams, Sammy Watkins, I believe that'll be their guy. He's the most talented wide receiver in this draft, and he's the most talented wide receiver to come out, in my honest opinion, since Calvin Johnson. I do believe he's better than Julio Jones. So, a number 2 overall pick for a guy who's going to be a number 1 wide receiver for a long time, in my opinion, is not a problem for me. I think it's a great value. So, number 2, St. Louis Rams select Sammy Watkins, wide receiver, Clemson. Moving on to number 3 pick. And that pick belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with that pick, I have them selecting Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end, South Carolina. I believe this pick isn't going to change throughout this draft. Even though Clowney is starting to live up to the faults, or what's it called? The criticism that I had brought upon him, if you knew me before I started even making these mock drafts. My very first mock draft, you're probably going to hate me for this. I had Clowney going 17th because I don't like him. I know he's an extraordinary athletic specimen, but his effort, he just makes it seem like he's better than everybody else, and he just annoys me. At the combine, the fact that he didn't do any of the drills aggravated me, because he's just going talking. He's acting like, oh, I ran my 4.58 or whatever the hell he ran, and now I'm just going to go talk to D Ford and go do interviews with, NFL Network and just sit and say, oh yeah, I put all the effort in, I work hard, you'll see it on the field, blah blah blah. Clowney, shut up and prove it to me. Until you prove it to me, then I don't believe you. And I believe the Jaguars, they kind of have to take him here, because if they pass on him, whoever's picking is fired. They need a pass rusher desperately, and I believe that with the wide receiver talent that they have, a second-round quarterback will be able to hold their own. If not, they can trade up and get another guy in the first round. But anyway, Clowney to the Jaguars at 3. Moving on now. With the number 4 pick in the draft, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Johnny Manziel, quarterback, Texas A&M. Manziel, I love Manziel a lot. I think that he is the most exciting playmaker in this draft, not Sammy Watkins. You know, I know Watkins is a great receiver, but Manziel is magical. He just makes things happen there on the field. You know, even though he may not be the biggest guy or the best pocket passer in the draft, he makes the most plays. There's no doubt about that. You can't doubt Manziel's production in college. You can only criticize the way he acts off the field, and that's why I think he won't be a number 1 overall pick. Because of his maturity, is going to hinder him from being the number 1 overall pick. I don't think Texans are going to take a chance on him because he doesn't know how to act. He needs to learn. He really does, because he has a ton of talent, and like Clowney, he has some off-the-field issues. Clowney's off-the-field issues are more, they're both maturity issues in my opinion. I think Clowney needs to realize if he wants to make this happen, it doesn't just get given to him. He's lucky enough that God gave him this unbelievable talent, but he needs to work if he wants to be the greatest of all time. It's not going to just get handed to him. Manziel, he's obviously works. That's not his problem. His problem is, I'm in the spotlight now. I have to realize that you're in the spotlight, and you have to learn how to handle it as an adult. If you don't learn how to handle it as an adult, you're going to go down the wrong path in the NFL, and you probably won't succeed. I think you have all the talent to make it. This message spans out. I think he has all the talent to make it as a starting quarterback in the NFL for a long time. He just needs to grow up a little bit. And if he does, I think the Browns will get an absolute steal at 4. Moving on to number 5 pick, the Oakland Raiders. At 5, I have the Oakland Raiders selecting Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback, Louisville. Bridgewater, being the most polished quarterback out of the draft this year, is going to benefit the Raiders the most. While he has a ton of talent and probably would help the team the most next season, he's not going to be the number 1 overall pick because he doesn't have the wow factor. And even though he doesn't necessarily have that wow factor, I think that that's what Oakland needs. They go with Terrell Pryor, a guy a couple years ago in the draft, a guy who's got all the speed, and they look for wow factor on him. It doesn't really pan out a long, not that long, but pretty long while ago. Dante Culpepper, look at all that wow factor they're looking for there, and that did not pan out at all. They need a safe bet at quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback out of Louisville, is extremely polished. His accuracy is great. I really like him as a leader, too. He can lead a team. He doesn't get enough credit for that. His persistence in times where he's looked like he's not going to come out as a victor, he has come out as a victory. He's led these Louisville to becoming a respectable football program. Before Bridgewater, they really weren't. They weren't. They're not a team with a ton of talent on them. And now Louisville is become a good team because of Teddy Bridgewater. And I really do admire the way he played in that Florida game a couple of years ago. Was it last year? It was the year before. That was pretty incredible. If you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube it. Broken wrist. Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater, number 5 to Oakland Raiders. I think it's a great fit for them. Moving on now to number 6 pick. And with number 6 pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Greg Robinson, offensive tackle, Auburn. I believe that they have to go offensive tackle here, especially with Greg Robinson still available. Greg Robinson is a franchise left tackle in my mind, and he will be for a long time. Extremely athletic for the tackle position. You saw that at the combine. I was blown away with his athleticism. Able to do a lot of reps in the weight and reps room. Ran incredibly. His footwork is great, and he's strong at the point of attack. It's everything you want from a left tackle Greg Robinson has. While he does tend to grab occasionally, that's his only flaw. He's a bit of a grabber. What that means is that sometimes he'll put his arms out like this so that his arms get able to get swatted down, and he kind of like holds on a little bit, which results in holding calls. But that's a technique thing that can be fixed. He has all the physical abilities you want for a left tackle, and with a team like Atlanta, who's built around their offense with a lot of high draft picks like Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, and Roddy White, they need a franchise left tackle there, or that's nothing. So, expect them to go tackle here. Greg Robinson, the best tackle available. Best tackle in this draft, to 6 to the Falcons. Moving on to number 7 pick. And that's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here, I have my first trade. I have them trading that pick to the Tennessee Titans for the Titans' first round pick and the Titans' second round pick in this draft. With that pick, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Khalil Mack, outside linebacker, Buffalo. There isn't a guy in this draft that fits Ken Whisenhunt's scheme better than Khalil Mack. He is versatile. This is a hybrid multiple front that's going to be brought to Tennessee, which, if you don't know what that means sometimes they'll be running a 3-4, which the outside linebackers are the primary pass rushers, which Khalil Mack does excellent. And it also sometimes lines up as a 4-3, which the defensive ends are primarily the pass rushers, and that means Khalil Mack will have to drop back into coverage and play the run, which he does excellently as well. He could go to a 4-3 team or a 3-4 team, but a hybrid multiple front team is the team that would fit Khalil Mack the best because you can maximize the use of his versatility. I don't see a guy in this draft class more versatile than Khalil Mack and more polished in every area of his game than Khalil Mack is. Sometimes he needs to be more stout against the run, but his coverage skills and his pass rushing ability and his athleticism are undeniable. I think the Titans will have to move up and get him. Will it be at 7? For now, I think it will be, but it could possibly be even higher. I think that this is a guy that the Titans absolutely need, and I don't think there's any way they can pass him up. I previously have had Buffalo needing him the most, but with Titans having that hybrid multiple front and needing a guy like that there's no way they're going to let him get out of the draft without getting him. There's just no way. They will trade and get him. If he gets drafted by a team, they'll make a trade for him. There's no way they can let Khalil Mack slip out of their grasp. Moving on to number 8th pick, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. And I have them selecting Derek Carr, quarterback, Fresno State. Now, previously, I thought this would be a bit of a stretch, but now, looking more into it, looking at his tape and his performance at the Combine, it really solidified him as a top 10 pick. Is he in the same class as Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, and Teddy Bridgewater? The answer to that is no. He is not. Right now, he's not. But he can be down the line. He has a huge arm, and he actually ran very, very well. I was very surprised. I knew he had a little bit of athleticism, but I didn't think of him as a guy who could run 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 read options a game, give that team that versatility that they want from a quarterback. I think Derek Carr could do that for them, for whatever team drafts him, and in this case, Minnesota. He's going to be a bit of a risk at 8, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a risk as it has been in the past. You saw me in a previous mock draft had him going at 8, and then the next draft I was like, that's a bit of a stretch. Now I really think Carr solidifies himself as a top 10 pick, and I think the Vikings, will they be ecstatic that this is the guy they got? No. But will they be happy? Yes. So Carr, 8 to the Vikings. Moving on now. With the number 9 pick, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting Eric Ebron, tight end, North Carolina. Ebron is a playmaker. He has really solidified himself as a top 10 pick, and I've been trying slowly to work Ebron higher and higher into this draft. I don't know, little by little. So finally, I've managed to get him in the top 10, and it's the Buffalo. I think he's a guy in the mold of a Vernon Davis type Jimmy Graham thing. Not as big. I'm sorry. I don't think he is as big as Jimmy Graham, and not as fast as Vernon Davis, but much more polished than Vernon Davis was coming out of the draft. He has a ton of athleticism, and yes, I think he's in that Vernon Davis type mold, just maybe not as fast, but definitely as athletic, and definitely can catch the ball just as well. I see Vernon Davis went at 6. Ebron will go at 9, just based on needs. I don't think there's a team besides maybe Atlanta, but they have Levine Tololo, something like that. I can't remember his name. There to try him out. But Ebron, he's going to fill a great need here and give E.J. Manuel another weapon. And I think it's going to help if E.J. Manuel stays healthy this year for the Bills to, grow as an offense, because they do have talent around them. It's not like I see them needing a wide receiver here, because they got Robert Woods, and they got Stevie Johnson, and they got Marquise Goodwin. So I don't think they need to draft a wide receiver as of right now, but a tight end will really help them a lot here. And Ebron obviously is the best tight end in this draft by a lot. Rounding off my top 10, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Mike Evans, wide receiver, Texas A&M. Evans at the Combine has really solidified himself as the second best wide receiver in this draft besides Sammy Watkins. And in this draft class, that is not an easy thing to do. I knew he's the second best wide receiver in this draft, but with a 4.56 at his size, that is really, really good and warrants him a top 10 pick. The Lions have been searching for a guy opposite Calvin Johnson for a very long time. Calvin Johnson and Mike Evans is going to be an elite combo in a division with a lot of offensive weapons. While they do need a cornerback, I don't see the corners in this draft class being as any corner being warranting a pick over Mike Evans. The only one, in my opinion, close to that is Justin Gilbert, but I don't think he's going to be better than Mike Evans will be. Even though this offense hasn't really struggled so badly, I think in a division with a lot of offensive superpowers, you kind of need to make sure your team is just as, up to par with everybody else. You see the two big wide receivers in in Chicago with Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. You got Aaron Rodgers and whoever the hell he wants to throw the ball to, because, right now it's Randall Cobb and Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. That's a pretty good combo. And then you got them now with, if this draft pick happens, with Calvin Johnson and Mike Evans. That's a really great division. I'm sorry, I'm just forgetting the last guy. I feel bad, but I forgot what the last team is. No, I'm not going to even try. But that's it. 10, I have the Lions selecting Mike Evans, wide receiver, Texas A&M. Moving on to the number 11th pick, and that now belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with that pick, I have them selecting Anthony Barr, outside linebacker, UCLA. While there's no knock, in my opinion, on Anthony Barr's talent, I think he might slip out of this top 10. Pretty much because a team needs to move into that top 10 in order to get Khalil Mack. And the other teams, the need isn't going to be there for Anthony Barr. I think that he's probably going to fit this he's going to fit this defense pretty well. They need an explosive pass rusher. While they do need help in other areas, but they're not warranted of this high of a pick. I think the reason why the Buccaneers have a pick so high this year is because of the coaching that they had. Greg Schiano, in my opinion, probably is I know is a horrible coach, and that is the reason why this team did not do good this year. Because I'm going to be completely honest with you, my Super Bowl picks for this year, to win it, like before the season started, it was Kansas City Chiefs, and then right next to that, that was Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that did not happen at all. And while now I kind of look like an idiot, I blame Greg Schiano. But at 11, I'll have the Buccaneers selecting Anthony Barr, outside linebacker, UCLA. Moving on to the 12th pick in the draft, and that belongs to New York Giants. And I have them selecting Jake Matthews, offensive tackle, Texas A&M. This is an absolute steal. There's no doubt about it that Jake Matthews at 12 is an absolute steal. This pick, I've said it numerous times, and people who watch my videos over and over are going to hear the exact same thing. This pick is going to solve all the problems for the New York Giants in the offensive line. You got Jake Matthews now will be on the left side, solidifying that left side. Move Will Beatty to the right side. That solidifies the right side. Kick Justin Pugh, who played great at tackle. I still think he's better at guard. Move him into the left guard position, and now you just need a center and a right guard. And in this draft, I think you can get a center and a right guard in the second and third rounds. So this offensive line is going to get a huge boost. While if Mike Evans was still on the board, I'd probably have them picking Mike Evans here. But I think that offensive line needs to be solidified, and Jake Matthews is what better guy to do it than Jake Matthews. So 12, Giants select Jake Matthews, offensive tackle, Texas A&M. Moving on to the 13th pick, and I have the St. Louis Rams selecting Taylor Lewan, offensive tackle, out of Michigan. Lewan is not as good as Matthews yet, and not as talented as Greg Robinson, which is why he's the third best. But he's no slouch at the left tackle position. Very consistent at college, and not allow a sack this season, which is not something that's easy to do at the collegiate level. If he's playing for a Division II team, maybe, but Michigan is no slouch in terms of competition that they face. So he not allowing a sack this entire season is extraordinary, and he showed this throughout his collegiate career. Something like a 1.5 sacks. I think that's what I've been hearing. 1.5 sacks he's allowed in his entire collegiate career, which is incredible. So consistency should not be a problem. I think Jake Long, I think they didn't made a bad investment in him. You don't really pay a guy like that. The Rams did. You pay a guy like that who's coming off and who's been struggling, and now he's injured. So I think he has to go to the right side. And I think either kick Roger Saffold into guard, or they're going to lose him in free agency. So it's one of the two that's going to happen here. So Taylor Lewan, 13, is pretty much, I think it's a fair spot for him to go. And this is a steal in terms of they need this guy here. And he has a ton of talent, and 13th spot, they'll still be able to get him. But I think this is right about the range you'll see Taylor Lewan go. Moving on now to the 14th pick, and I had the Chicago Bears selecting Clinton Dix, free safety, out of Alabama. Originally, I had them going Calvin Pryor here last time, but now I have them going Clinton Dix because when it comes down to it, Clinton Dix is a better cover guy than Calvin Pryor. While Calvin Pryor is pretty good in coverage, he's not as good as Clinton Dix, and that's really what they need here. What teams with explosive offenses in that division. So they need to have a safety that in case one of the explosive wide receivers or running backs gets past them, that gets past their front, they need to have a safety who can cover them and make sure and get them to knock them down. And Clinton Dix can do that very, very well. He's probably the best defensive back in this class. It's between him, Gilbert, and Pryor, in my opinion, as the best defensive backs in this draft class. 14 to the Bears is a pretty safe pick, and there's going to be a debate between defensive tackle here or free safety, and I honestly believe that it's going to depend on what the Lions do. If the Lions go corner, I believe they'll go defensive tackle. If the Lions go wide receiver, they'll go safety. That's my opinion. But 14, HaHa Clinton Dix, or Hashan Clinton Dix, to the Bears. Moving on. With the 15th pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Darqueze Dennard, cornerback, Michigan State. Dennard fits the Steeler mentality. Tough guy, is not afraid to get up in your face and hit you. Kind of an old-fashioned kind of player. When you think of the Steelers defense, you think of big, tough guys who can knock you on the ground. That steel curtain hasn't been there like it used to. They need to get younger, and they need to add people who have the same Steeler mentality. And Darqueze Dennard definitely has that Steeler mentality. Not afraid to lay you out and not afraid to get to your face and make sure you don't get the ball. Dennard probably won't. I mean, he's going to go before Gilbert in this situation because of scheme fit. And I think Gilbert is a better cornerback than Dennard, given all of Gilbert's athletic abilities and versatilities and places you can use him. I think that Dennard is a man-to-man press corner on the outside. Right now it's mostly a run support corner, and if the absolute best can mold into a guy like Darrelle Revis, at the absolute worst can do nothing. He could just get injured and pretty much pull, one of those. He can be a bust, but he could mold into a Darrelle Revis. He has the size, he has the mentality, he has the tackling ability, and the Steelers' defense is a defense that has a lot of needs because of age. So, most notably on the defensive side, they need a nose tackle, but a corner to replace Ike Taylor. Cortez Allen and Darqueze Dennard is going to be a young cornerback tangent there for a long time. So this is a good pick for the Steelers at 15. Moving on to the 16th pick, the Dallas Cowboys, and I have them selecting Timmy Jernigan, defensive tackle, Florida State. For some reason, Jernigan is moving down on a lot of people's draft boards, but for me, Jernigan can only go up. He can't really go down. He showed at the Combine that even though he's a big man, and maybe he won't have the biggest, long speed, because he's over 300 pounds, clearly he's not going to run like a 4.5, but Jernigan has great feet, and he has very, very explosive hands, and while he could fit more into a nose tackle, he can still play in a 4-3 defensive front. He reminds me a lot of Warren Sapp, in my opinion. And I know that Sapp had more of a pass rushing ability than Timmy Jernigan, but I believe that he can mold into Warren Sapp. That's how good I think Jernigan is. He has a love for this game. He really does. You can see it on each and every play. He is very enthusiastic, great personality, really fit that Florida State champion team well. So I can see him going even higher. I think that Jernigan is by as far and away the best defensive tackle in this draft class, and for some reason he's falling down people's draft boards. I'm not exactly sure why. Aaron Donald is a guy on the rise because of his, athletic ability, but what they need in Dallas, drew a blank there, is a run-stopping defensive tackle. And Jernigan is that right now. He's a great run stopper, and I think he's going to mold into a great pass rusher with that explosive hands. Look for him to be a difference maker, maybe not just next year, because he'll be a difference maker next year in the run defense, but look for him down the road to be one of the most productive players in this draft class. Moving on to the 17th pick, and that is the Baltimore Ravens, and I have them selecting C.J. Mosley, inside linebacker, Alabama. Since Ray Lewis left a couple years ago, Dannell Ellerbe was lost to free agency. They need a guy in the middle that can be the next linebacker in Baltimore. They have Joe Flacco, a guy who they invested a lot of money in as a quarterback, a very deep draft class in terms of wide receivers. I think that they can let the wide receiver pass with their first pick, their first round pick, and take a guy like C.J. Mosley, which an inside linebacker position that he's going to thrive at. He's a very versatile guy, so it means he can move all around that linebacking core. Even occasionally rush the passer. He's pretty much mostly just an inside linebacker, but can play all three, like I just said again. So look for him to make a difference in that Ravens defense that did struggle last year, and is another one of these defenses that can use, youth. They're getting younger, but I think they need to continue getting younger, and no better way to do that than with C.J. Mosley, the inside linebacker out of Alabama. Moving on to the 18th pick, and I have the New York Jets selecting Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, Oregon State. He's rising up my board tremendously. I think he's now moved into that third best wide receiver in this draft, in my opinion. Marquise Lee is a guy who, at the combine, I don't know if he's focused on the 40 times. It's more of the on-tape speed, but his 40, he needed to run a good 40, because his main weakness, besides injuries and a little bit of inconsistent production, was, the separation, and he didn't run very well at the combine. He ran, not extremely well, and Brandon Cooks did. And Brandon Cooks has versatility. The New York Jets are a team that lacks offensive weapons at every single position. I think that it's definitely most notably at the wide receiver position. I think Geno Smith is not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's going to be a solid quarterback for right now. I don't think he's a guy that is as bad as Mark Sanchez, and I don't think he's going to be like a complete bust. So I look for him to excel with more weapons. So Brandon Cooks, he can play inside and he can play outside. It depends on what the Jets view him as. If they view him as a slot guy, they may not take him here. But if they view him as an outside playmaker, they may take him here. I view him as a guy in the Steve Smith role. And like I've said before in the past, I'm going to take a risk on a guy with production. If I draft a guy like Brandon Cooks, who was a Blitnikoff winner last year, and he doesn't pan out, I'm not gonna feel bad about myself if I take a guy that hasn't produced well at the collegiate level or is struggling right now. He's not struggling; he's a guy on the rise. There's a no-brainer for me to take Brandon Cooks. I could see him even going possibly higher than this. Look for Carolina to want to make a move to go get him, but with that new need at left tackle, I don't see them being able to give up that second-round pick in order to get him. So I think they need to keep, Brandon Cooks off. They need to keep that first and second-round pick. So Brandon Cooks, 18 to the Jets. Moving on to the 19th pick, and that is the Miami Dolphins. And I have them selecting Zach Martin, offensive lineman, Notre Dame. I think Zach Martin is a guy that the Dolphins absolutely need to have. You can argue, and I would agree with you, that the Dolphins need help at 2 tackle positions and 2 guards. So they need 2 guards and 2 tackles. And Zach Martin is having some debate on whether he's going to be an offensive tackle or an offensive guard. And I don't think it really matters to the Miami Dolphins. To other teams, his draft stock is going to be kind of hindered if he can't play. Well, it will be hindered if he can't play, if they don't think he's going to be a franchise left tackle, or he doesn't pan out as left tackle. For a team like Miami, if he doesn't pan out as a left tackle, move him into guard. No problem. We need a need there too. So that need, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the word here. That surplus of needs for the Dolphins along the offensive line is going to help Zach Martin's draft stock, and it's going to help them get a player that could be a Pro Bowler at guard and possibly can mold into a great left tackle. I say start him at left tackle, see what happens. If he doesn't do well there, kick him into guard and work on tackle in the future. But 19, the Dolphins have to pick up Zach Martin in this draft. I don't think there's a doubt about that. So 19 Miami Dolphins, Zach Martin, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. Moving on to the number 20 pick, and I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Dee Ford, defensive end / outside linebacker, out of Auburn. I think his versatility and athleticism and confidence is undeniable. I really like him. he's been a guy on my board that's been rising ever since the Senior Bowl. Actually, ever since the National Championship game. He's been rising, but I've been reluctant to put him in the first round because, first of all, I know it's going to get an uproar because people are going to be like, how does D Ford get over, other guys in this draft class? I know at least one person thinks Calvin Pryor should go here. No. Anyway, D Ford here, he's an excellent talent. He really has been producing extremely well, and I think that his athleticism is undeniable, and it's a guy that's going to add this element to this team that is needed. I think if they move up, if the Cardinals move up to get a quarterback, which I think is possible, I think that they're going to be pretty stupid to I would just sit back and I would take D Ford. I don't think he's better. I think he's better than Coney Ealy because he has more athleticism, and I think it gives him a higher upside. I really like him a lot. I think he's going to be a solid player to the next level and can emerge as one of the better picks in the first round of this draft class. D Ford, outside linebacker, out of Auburn, to the Cardinals at 20. Moving on to the 21st pick, and I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Calvin Pryor, free safety, out of Louisville. The Packers suffered from poor free safety and strong safety play last year, which hindered this defense a lot. I think this defense is a very talented one, but they need to play better, and I think the back end of that defense was exposed last year due to the weakness at linebacker. And while I could see them trading up for C.J. Mosley, I think that's very likely that they will trade up for C.J. Mosley to solidify that linebacking core. I think it's even better if they, for right now, get that free safety in Calvin Pryor that's going to be able to be a playmaker. He's going to stop the run, and he can play coverage very well. He's got great hands and will help that back end not be so exposed and give them a safety blanket. So if that linebacking core does not play that well, they'll have Calvin Pryor on the back end to make sure that no big plays happen. And that's an important thing when you're in a division like the Packers are in with a lot of explosive playmakers they have to go against. You'll hear me talk about that a lot with teams in that division because they're going against teams that have unbelievable offenses and they need to have great secondaries to be able to stop that. Moving on to the 22nd pick, and I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Justin Gilbert, cornerback, Oklahoma State. I think that this is a great pick for them. I think they get the best corner in this draft, and they get the most athletic guy, which is something that Chip Kelly is going to love, having more athletic and versatile players on that team. Even though this is not an offensive guy, he can also kick return. Even though they have good kick return skills, it gives him another weapon. He's extremely athletic. He can play inside and out. I believe he could start on the outside, and if they need to move him inside, then they can. He's one of these guys that has such athleticism that at the very, very worst will be an excellent special teamer throughout his entire career. It's one of these guys where the risk isn't there. There's no risk because even though you're spending a high pick on him, worst case scenario, he has to be a great special teams player. But best case scenario, he's a lockdown corner for years to come. So I think that far and away, he's the best corner in this draft class. I think the only reason why he won't go before Dennard is because of the scheme that the Steelers have and that reputation that they have. Gilbert just doesn't fit with them. So he does fit in Philadelphia extremely well. Look for them to be excited about getting him here at 22. Moving on now to the 23rd pick, and I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver, LSU. The second fastest 40 time for a wide receiver at the combine, and I think that he is, moving up the boards. He deserves this pick here. I think Marquise Lee is a guy on the downfall, and I don't think Kelvin Benjamin fits them there because they already have the big receiver, and I think they're going to look for a contrast with Andy Reid being that new offensive coordinator. A guy like Odell Beckham Jr. will fit them there. even Jarvis Landry could possibly go there because he's a slot guy and he's good in the run support game. Odell Beckham Jr. is good in the run support game, but not nearly as good as Landry is. He's got good hands catchers. He's unbelievable speed, and his route running skills are very good. He just needs to make sure he stays healthy, and he can be a great option there in Kansas City. Moving on now to the 24th pick, and I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Marquise Lee, wide receiver, USC. I think they should go wide receiver here. Even though Marvin Jones had one good game, a guy opposite Andy Green, AJ Green, is not going to hurt them. It really isn't. I don't think there's a corner that is going to fit their need here. I think a corner that would fit their need the best would be Jason Verrett, the corner at TCU. But I don't think he is deserving of going here at 24. I don't think there's another pass rusher that can go here either. I think that Marquise Lee can most certainly go here. I think he's going to give them a valuable option. If not outside, which I think he should be an outside receiver, he can play inside too. He definitely needs to, prove the doubters wrong that he's going to be a good option there. And Andy Dalton is a make-or-break season with him, and I think they're going to give him the absolute best chance to succeed by adding even more weapons around to surround him. So, Marquise Lee, the wide receiver out of USC, 24 to the Bengals. Moving on to the 25th pick, and I have the San Diego Chargers selecting Jace Amaro, tight end, Texas Tech. He really impressed me at the Combine. He really did. He impressed me the most out of all the tight ends in the Combine because he ran a 4.68 and a 4.63. He benched 30 reps, and he's 6'2", 6'2 and 3/8 and 6'5 and 3/8. It's 265 pounds. He's big enough to be a tight end. He caught, but not terrible. So he caught pretty well. But his athleticism, his raw athleticism, showed me a lot here. And with Antonio Gates getting older and older, not getting any younger at all, I think a young tight end to learn from Gates while he's still there is going to help out this San Diego Chargers team a lot. Do I believe they need to solidify the offensive guard position? Yes, and if they picked Xavier Su'a-Filo here, I would not be disappointed at all. I think that Jason Morrow just at this point is what I decided to go with this time. But Xavier Su'a-Filo, if they go him here, I will not be complaining whatsoever. If I was a Chargers fan, I would think that that's a pretty good pick right there. But I think Amaro would be a good pick as well. Moving right along to the 26th pick, and I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Jarvis Landry, wide receiver, LSU. The reason I don't have him going Kelvin Benjamin here is because they need a guy opposite Josh Gordon that they know can make catches. And he can possibly be a slot guy. I think he can play outside. Even though most people are starting to see him now as more of a slot receiver, I really truly believe that he can be a slot guy. Another thing that the Cleveland Browns really did struggle on was run blocking, and he is an excellent run blocker for a wide receiver. That's going to help open up things that you would not necessarily know that wide receivers will open up. And it's going to help, even though they don't have the most talented running back in the world, they don't really have a running back. I think they should get a running back in this draft class. Probably not at a high pick. Maybe somewhere between the 3rd and 5th rounds, you'll see them go their running back. But I think Landry over Benjamin here, because of Benjamin's drops in the past, is going to hinder them a little bit here. Moving on to 27. In this, originally, I had Stephon Tuitt, defensive end Notre Dame, going here, but I'm going to make a quick change here. At 27, I have the New Orleans Saints selecting Rashid Hageman, defensive end / defensive tackle out of Minnesota. He's very versatile, and I bet he now has emerged to me as definitely a 3-4 defensive end, and I think he's the best 3-4 defensive end in this class. He's very athletic. He can get to the quarterback and he can stop the run very well, and he also has the versatility to play along that defensive front. They moved to a 3-4 last year, so they're still looking for guys with that ability, and I think he definitely does have that. It's going to really help out that defense a lot there in New Orleans. Moving along to 28, Carolina Panthers, and I have them selecting Kelvin Benjamin, the wide receiver out of Florida State. They need a wide receiver desperately. They also now need a left tackle desperately. I don't want them to take Cyrus Kouandjio because I think he's definitely going to be a right tackle. So I think their wide receiver, Kelvin Benjamin, is worth taking here. I think that his spectacular catching ability, his size, his ability to just throw the ball up to is going to help them out a lot. But his drops in the intermediate range is something that's not that good. And while I've been a Carolina Panther fan for my entire life, I think that it would be a smart thing to do for them to cut Steve Smith. It's hard as as bad as I want him to just retire as a Carolina Panther. The salary that they're paying him, his production has dropped off a lot. I think that cutting him or restructuring him is not a bad thing to do. May it be a little bit of a disrespect to him and what he's done for the franchise. You could see it that way, but Jordan Gross took a pay cut last year. He did retire this year, but he took a pay cut last year so they can sign players and, succeed as a team. And I think Steve Smith, different kind of personality than Jordan Gross, he may end up getting cut, and they may sign a guy like Hakeem Nicks, and drafting Kelvin Benjamin. And that's a bit of a risk, but it could have a high reward if that happens. So 28, the Panthers, Kelvin Benjamin, wide receiver, Florida State. Moving on to 29, I have the New England Patriots selecting Louis Nix III, defensive tackle, Notre Dame. He's emerged more as a nose tackle now, but I still think that in New England, he's the only team that he could play that defensive tackle position at. I think he's going to be a little bit of a mindset of Vince Wilfork. They need help along the defensive line, and I think he's probably their best option in terms of run stopping. I just don't think that Aaron Donald is big enough to be that defensive tackle in New England. 30, I have the 49ers selecting Jason Verrett, cornerback, Texas Christian University. Really, I think he's a second-round corner. But the need that the 49ers have at the slot corner position is undeniable. And I think Jason Verrett is far and away the best slot corner in this draft class. And I think they have to take him here. They really don't have a chance of choice. So this is what they have to do. They have to take him there because if they trade down, he's not going to be there the next pick. He'll be there here now, and I think you got to take your guy if he's there. I've said it all along. You take your guy if he's there. 31, the Broncos, Bradley Roby, cornerback, Ohio State. I wrote quarterback for some weird reason, but he's a cornerback and he's out of Ohio State. While he did struggle this year, I still think he's going to be in that back end of the first round, especially with a team like Denver with a lot of needs in that secondary and a lot of uncertainty. And, it's really the main thing that's hindered them from being a Super Bowl contender is that secondary. They can't stop anything, and they did struggle in the Super Bowl, but you did see that secondary is the main weakness of the Denver Broncos. And I also think, look, this is something for later in the draft, and I'll just make this quickly, but I'm going to talk a little bit at the end of this video. Look for them later in this draft to go with Jeff Matthews, quarterback out of Cornell, to learn from Peyton Manning, and if I was Jeff Matthews, I would try my best to get myself on the Denver Broncos to learn from Peyton Manning, because he's a smart guy out of an Ivy League school with a lot of Peyton Manning-like qualities. Look for him to do excellent, not next year, but years after that. One of those guys that kind of emerges later in his career, maybe not year 1, maybe year 2, 3, or 4. Look for him to make a difference later. And rounding off my first round, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Austin Seferian-Jenkins, tight end out of Washington. I'm pretty sure that they have to do this if he's available. I know they like Aaron Donald, but their really main need is at the tight end position. I think Austin Seferian-Jenkins is going to help in that run blocking a lot, and also he's going to be a fan favorite there. I've heard from people who are Seattle fans in my comment section that if the Seattle Seahawks got Austin Seferian-Jenkins, they would be very happy. And I think that's make your fans happy. Selling jerseys is really the main, it's really going to help a team an owner make more money. And Seferian-Jenkins, they'll buy his jerseys. Alright. A quick thing, this is the end of the video now. Thank you for watching, but I'm going to talk for a little bit here. If you want to click off the video right now, just want to say thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. But now I'm going to talk a little bit. So, first of all, sorry for not finishing with the gifts at this end of this video. I kind of didn't get to finish it the day I wanted it to finish, so I just decided I'm going to do the rest of the video here. And I didn't put the gifts in, so I apologize for that. But the view thing is kind of bothering me. I don't know why I'm not getting that many views. Whatever. I'm just gonna talk for a bit. Let you know about some things that are gonna come up on this channel. 7-round mock draft. I'm going to do it. I'm telling you, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen. Most likely, sometime in April, after Easter. Probably when I have spring break, which I'm not exactly sure the date of that yet, but I think it's the first Monday after Easter. I will have the 7-round mock draft. Leave down in the comments below if you want me to break this mock draft up. Do you want me to just put in all of it at once, and it'd probably be like a 10-hour long video, or just break it up, do 1 through 10, then 2 to 20, 11 to 20, and then 20 to 32, 21 to 32, and do that for each round. Because I can do that, it makes sense. And I also need somebody to leave me in the leave comments, and leave a comment telling me where I can find the entire draft list of everyone's picks of where they are, because in the past I've just done the order and I haven't really known who has what picks based on trade, and I don't know how it works and whatever, yada yada yada. But I think that's enough with that. Another thing that you're going to be looking for in this channel soon, if you're a fan of the NBA, I love college basketball, so I'm going to start doing towards the end of the NBA season. This is a little bit down the road, but if you enjoy this and this is something you want to do, you may want to subscribe to keep in touch with that, because I will be doing the same thing I do for football. I'll be doing that for the NBA. So I'll be doing mock drafts, prospect evaluation, stuff like that. It's a little easier because there's only 2 rounds, not 7 rounds, not as many prospects to deal with, so those could be a little bit easier. They will be 2 rounds every single time. So look forward to that. Prospect evaluation videos. I still need your comments for that, because I don't like doing them when people aren't gonna watch them, because I don't know. So leave your comments below on what prospects you want me to do. Do you want me to just bash on Jadeveon Clowney for a video? Because I'll gladly do that. I probably am going to do that. And watch all the videos, subscribe, tell your friends, and have a good day. I love your faces. See ya.